If it weren't for your pension, we wouldn't need you here." The words hit me like a slap across the face. I stood there in what used to be my dining room, the room where I'd served Sunday dinners for 43 years, holding a dish towel in my trembling hands. My son Trevor stood in the doorway, his arms crossed, while his wife Vanessa smirked from the couch, her legs stretched out on the ottoman I'd bought in 1982. "Trevor," I whispered, my voice catching, "how can you say that to me?" "It's the truth, Mom." He didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. "We're drowning in bills. My business is barely staying afloat. If you weren't contributing that $2,400 every month from your pension and Social Security, we'd have to figure something else out." I looked at this man, this 6-foot-tall stranger wearing my son's face, and something inside me cracked. Not broke, mind you. Cracked. Like a vase that's been hit but hasn't shattered yet. The kind of crack that changes the structure of everything. "I see," I said quietly, folding the dish towel with hands that had washed his scraped knees, packed his school lunches, and held him through every nightmare he'd ever had. "Don't give us that wounded look," Vanessa chimed in, finally looking up from her phone. "You're lucky we let you stay. Most women your age end up in those awful nursing homes. You should be grateful." Grateful. I should be grateful for sleeping in the laundry room of my own house. Grateful for eating my meals after they'd finished. Grateful for being told I couldn't have visitors because I made the place look crowded. Grateful for handing over $72,000 over the past 2.5 years. "You're right," I heard myself say. The words tasted like ash. "You're absolutely right." Trevor looked surprised, as if he'd expected a fight. Vanessa smiled that snake oil smile of hers and went back to scrolling. But what they didn't know was that I had already been planning. They didn't know that this 72-year-old woman, who they'd relegated to a cot next to the washing machine, had one more card to play. They didn't know about the folder hidden in Lorraine's house across town, or the recordings on my phone, or the lawyer I'd been meeting with every Thursday morning during my walks in the park. They didn't know that Dorothy Brennan hadn't survived the Great Recession, 30 years of teaching elementary school, and burying her beloved husband only to let her own son steal what was left of her dignity. But they were about to find out. Let me take you back 2 months, to when this all started. Or rather, when I finally opened my eyes to what had been happening for a lot longer than that. It was a Tuesday morning in late July. I remember because it was the day after Lily's 8th birthday, and I'd spent my last $200 buying her that doll she'd wanted. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. like I had every morning for 50 years, even though I didn't have anywhere to be. Old. Habits, my mother used to say, die harder than old people. I lay there on that narrow cot, listening to the washing machine hum beside me. Vanessa insisted on running loads at night to save on electricity. And I thought about my Herbert. He'd been gone 3 years, but that morning the missing felt fresh. Herbert would have never let this happen. Herbert would have shown Trevor to the door the first time he raised his voice to me. But Herbert had a heart attack at 69, right there in our garden while planting tomatoes, and I'd been alone ever since. Well, not alone. That was the problem, wasn't it? I got up, folded my blanket exactly the way Vanessa insisted, and made my way to the kitchen. It was 6 a.m. Trevor and Vanessa wouldn't be up until 8, and the kids, my precious grandchildren, were spending the week with Vanessa's mother in Ohio. The house was quiet in that heavy way that feels more like an accusation than peace. I made my coffee, the instant kind now, because Vanessa said my old coffee maker used too much counter space, and sat at the small table in the corner. Not the big dining table. That was for real meals, Vanessa said, and I wasn't included in those anymore. I ate alone, usually whatever was left after they'd finished. That morning I pulled out my phone. My granddaughter Lily had taught me how to use WhatsApp the previous Christmas, and I'd joined a group chat with 5 women from my old book club. We called ourselves the Golden Girls, though none of us were quite as sassy as Blanche. I typed, "Good morning, ladies, hope everyone slept well." Within minutes, the responses came in. Lorraine Williams. "Morning, Dot. Up early as always. Coffee shop at 9. Barbara Kowalski. "Count me in. My back's acting up, but I need to get out of this house." Judith Chen. I'll be there. Need to tell you all about what my grandson did yesterday. You won't believe it. That coffee shop meetup became my salvation, though I didn't know it yet. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m., rain or shine, we met at Morning Brew on Maple Street. It was a 20-minute walk from what used to be my house, and those walks, claiming I needed exercise for my arthritis, gave me the freedom to be Dorothy again, not just mom or grandma or the old woman in the laundry room. Architected elderly empowerment narrative with character development and escalating conflict patterns. I'm making good progress with the story. I've established the opening confrontation with the powerful quote, the protagonist Dorothy Brennan, 72. Her son Trevor and his wife Vanessa. The setup with the flashback, her supportive friend group. The beginning of her awakening. I need to continue building the story with more specific examples of mistreatment, her growing awareness, details of her planning and preparations, the emotional arc, financial specifics, legal procedures, the eventual confrontation and resolution. End with a reflection question. Let me continue with the narrative, building up the pattern of abuse and her gradual awakening and planning. That particular Tuesday, after Vanessa had made her comment about me being grateful, I walked to Morning Brew with my head held high despite the tears burning behind my eyes. The summer air was thick and humid, the kind that makes your clothes stick to your skin, but I barely noticed. I kept hearing Trevor's words on repeat. If it weren't for your pension, we wouldn't need you here. Lorraine took one look at my face when I walked in and stood up so fast she nearly knocked over her latte. Dot? What happened? I tried to speak, but nothing came out. Instead, I just handed her my phone. I'd been documenting things, you see, taking photos, making notes. That morning, I'd taken a picture of my bedroom, the laundry room with its single cot, no window, and my clothes hanging from a tension rod above the washing machine. Lorraine's face went from concerned to furious in about 3 seconds. Dorothy Ann Brennan, how long has this been going on? Since February, I said quietly. They needed my room for Trevor's home office. Your room! Your room! Dot, that's your house. Was my house, I corrected her. I signed it over to Trevor 6 months ago. He said it would help with taxes. He said it was smart financial planning. He said what he needed to say to get what he wanted. Barbara interrupted, her voice sharp. Dot, tell me you didn't give him power of attorney, too. The silence that followed answered her question. Judith put her head in her hands. Oh, honey. I thought I was helping, I said. And finally the tears came. After Herbert died, everything felt so overwhelming. The bills, the taxes, the insurance. Trevor said he'd handle it all. He said I shouldn't worry my pretty little head about it. I laughed bitterly. Those were his exact words. Like I didn't spend 30 years teaching and managing our household budget down to the penny. Lorraine grabbed my hand across the table. We're going to fix this. How? I signed over everything. The house deed is in his name. My pension checks go straight to the joint account he set up, the one I can't access anymore. He said it was easier this way. I have exactly $247 in my old savings account. That's what I used to buy Lily's birthday present. And Trevor knows about that account? Barbara asked. I don't think so. It's an old one Herbert and I opened in 1978. We used it for Christmas shopping. After he died, I forgot about it until a few months ago when I needed to buy the kids something. Lorraine's eyes lit up. Keep that account quiet, Dot. Don't mention it. Don't use the card where Trevor or Vanessa can see. That $247 might be more important than you think. What are you thinking? Judith asked. I'm thinking we need to call my daughter-in-law, the lawyer. That's how I met Patrick Henley, Esquire, on a Thursday morning 3 days later. Lorraine's daughter-in-law worked at Henley and Associates, a law firm that specialized in elder law. The consultation was free, Lorraine assured me, and they'd been handling her estate planning for years. Patrick Henley was maybe 45, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. His office was on the third floor of a building downtown, and I'd told Trevor I was going to the library. "Mrs. Brennan," he said, gesturing to a comfortable chair. "Lorraine told me a bit about your situation, but I'd like to hear it from you. Start from the beginning." So I did. I told him about Herbert's death, about how lost I'd felt, about Trevor showing up 6 months later with Vanessa, saying their apartment lease was up and could they stay just for a few months while they got back on their feet. "What was Trevor's financial situation at the time?" Mr. Henley asked, taking notes. "He'd just started a business, some kind of consulting thing. He said it was going to take off, that they'd have their own place within 6 months. I twisted my wedding ring, the one thing I'd managed to keep. "That was 2.5 years ago. And the house?" "Trevor said putting it in his name would protect it if I ever needed Medicaid for a nursing home. He said they'd take everything if it was still in my name. He had all these papers and he was so insistent. And I trusted him. He's my son." Mr. Henley's expression didn't change, but I saw his jaw tighten. "Mrs. Brennan, that's not how Medicaid works. There's a 5-year look-back period. Transferring assets can actually disqualify you. Did you have a lawyer review these documents?" "Trevor said we didn't need one. He said his accountant had looked them over." "I see. And your income?" "I get $1,850 a month from my teacher's pension and $900 from Social Security. It goes into a joint account with Trevor. He gives me $100 a week for personal expenses." "So out of $2,750 monthly, you receive $400? "Well, I'm living in his house," I said automatically, then stopped. "I mean my house. The house I paid off in 2003, the house Herbert and I bought in 1978 for $45,000. A house that's probably worth what now? $350,000? $400,000? I nodded miserably. "The last assessment said $385,000. Mr. Henley set down his pen. "Mrs. Brennan, I'm going to be direct with you. What you've described is financial exploitation. It's a form of elder abuse, and it's illegal in this state. Your son has essentially stolen your house and your income." "But I signed the papers," I protested weakly, "under duress and misrepresentation. He lied to you about the Medicaid rules. He used your grief and confusion to manipulate you. That's not legal consent, Mrs. Brennan, that's coercion." I sat there, letting his words sink in. Financial exploitation, elder abuse. These were things that happened to other people, not to Dorothy Brennan, who'd taught second grade for 3 decades and served on the school board for 10 years. "What can I do?" I finally asked. "Several things. But first, I need to ask, do you want to stay in that house? With your son?" "No," I said, and the word came out stronger than I expected. "No, I don't. But I have nowhere else to go." "Let's work on that. Now, tell me about this power of attorney." Over the next 4 weeks, I became a spy in my own house. Mr. Henley had given me a list of things to document. Every conversation about money, every time they denied me access to my funds, every instance of being treated as less than family, any threats or intimidation. The living conditions. I started keeping a journal hidden in my purse. I took photos with my phone. I recorded conversations. Michigan is a one-party consent state, Mr. Henley had told me, which meant I could record any conversation I was part of without telling the other person. The journal entries were devastating to read back. August 3rd. Asked Trevor if I could have $50 extra this week to buy a birthday gift for my sister Ruth. He said no, that I need to learn to budget better. My pension check was $1,950 this month. I got $100 of it. August 8th. Vanessa told me I couldn't use the washing machine on weekends because it interferes with their schedule. I had to wash my clothes by hand in the bathroom sink. August 12th. Trevor's friend came over. I was introduced as my mom who lives with us, not my mother in whose house we live. When I tried to correct him, Vanessa glared at me until I went back to the laundry room. August 15th. Overheard Trevor on the phone with someone about refinancing. He said, "The house is in my name free and clear," and laughed. Yeah, my mom signed it over, best decision she ever made. That last one, I recorded. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped the phone, but I got it. The recordings were even worse. Vanessa's voice, shrill and demanding. Your mother needs to understand her place here, Trevor. She's not the matriarch anymore. She's a guest. She should act like it. And Trevor's response, I know, babe. I'll talk to her. One conversation in particular stood out. It was August 18th, late evening. I was lying on my cot, and they thought I was asleep. Their bedroom was directly above the laundry room, and the old heating vent carried sound perfectly. How much longer do we have to keep her here? Vanessa asked. Until we have enough saved up to actually afford this place, Trevor replied. Her pension is literally keeping us afloat. The business still isn't profitable. But she's so present, always there, always watching with those sad eyes. It makes me feel guilty. Then stop looking at her. She's got a roof over her head and food to eat. That's more than a lot of old people have. What if she gets sick? Or needs expensive care? Then we'll deal with it. But right now, we need that $2,400 a month. I lay there in the dark, listening to my son discuss me like I was a financial asset, not a person. Not his mother who'd sat up with him through ear infections and driven him to soccer practice for 8 years and paid for his college education. The next morning I called Mr. Henley from the library. I want to move forward, I told him, whatever we need to do. Good, he said. Here's the plan. The plan was methodical. First, we had to establish my mental competency. Trevor could argue I hadn't been in my right mind when I signed over the house. Mr. Henley sent me to Dr. Sarah Kim, a neuropsychologist, who put me through hours of tests. Mrs. Brennan, she said at the end, smiling, you have the cognitive function of someone 20 years younger. You're sharp as a tack. Her official report stated, I showed no signs of dementia, diminished capacity, or mental impairment. I was fully capable of making my own decisions. Second, we filed a complaint with Adult Protective Services. I hated this part. It felt like betrayal, but Mr. Henley insisted. Dorothy, listen to me, he said. This isn't about revenge. This is about protection. What Trevor is doing is illegal. APS needs to investigate. The APS worker, a kind woman named Michelle Torres, came to interview me at Morning Brew. I showed her everything, the photos of my bedroom, the journal entries, the recordings, the bank statements Mr. Henley had subpoenaed showing my entire pension going into Trevor's account. Michelle's face grew grimmer with each piece of evidence. Mrs. Brennan, how long has this been going on? 2.5 years. And the transfer of the house? 6 months after my husband died. She made notes, asked more questions, took copies of everything. We'll be opening an investigation, she said. I can't tell you what the outcome will be, but this is serious. Third, we worked on finding me a place to live. This was the hardest part. 240 Spendlers doesn't rent much of anything. But Lorraine, bless her heart, had an idea. My house is too big for just me, she said over coffee one Thursday. 4 bedrooms, and I rattle around in there like a pea in a pod. Stay with me, Dot. Not as a guest, as a roommate. We'll split utilities, you can contribute what you can, and we'll be company for each other. Lorraine, I couldn't. You can and you will. Besides, you're doing me a favor. I hate being alone at night. Too many creaky sounds. So I had a place to go. Now I just needed to get there. Mr. Henley filed a motion with the probate court to revoke the power of attorney and challenge the property transfer. This could take months, he warned me. The courts move slowly, but we have a strong case. The misrepresentation about Medicaid alone is grounds for fraud. How much will this cost? I asked, thinking of my $247. My firm does pro bono work for elder abuse cases, he said. You're not paying me a dime, Dorothy. This is what I do. I cried in his office that day, just sat there and sobbed while this stranger, this kind, good man, handed me tissues and told me it was going to be okay. September came, and with it, a change in the weather and a change in Trevor. The APS investigation had begun, though he didn't know I was the one who filed the complaint. He thought a neighbor had called. Some busybody reported us, he ranted one evening, saying you're being neglected. Can you believe that? After everything we've done for you? I kept my face neutral. That's terrible. They want to interview you, Vanessa said, her voice tight. Some woman from APS. You'll tell her everything's fine, right? Of course, I lied. The interview happened on September 15th, right in the living room with Trevor and Vanessa present. Michelle Torres was professional and thorough. Mrs. Brennan, do you feel safe in this home? Trevor's eyes burned into me. Of course she does. I'm asking Mrs. Brennan, Michelle said coolly. Then to me, you can speak freely. This was it. This was the moment. I could back down, keep the peace, maintain the lie, or I could tell the truth. I thought about Herbert, about the life we'd built, about the house we'd scrimped and saved to buy, about the pension I'd earned through 30 years of teaching snot-nosed kids their ABCs. No, I said quietly. I don't feel safe. The room went silent. Mom! Trevor's voice was sharp. What are you saying? Let her speak, Michelle said. I sleep in the laundry room. I get $400 a month from my $2,750 income. I'm not allowed to have visitors. I eat after everyone else finishes. I wash my clothes by hand because I can't use the machine on weekends. My voice grew stronger with each word. This is my house, the house I bought with my husband in 1978, the house I paid off in 2003. And I'm treated like a burden. Vanessa stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. She's senile. She doesn't know what she's saying. I'm not senile, I said firmly. I have a letter from Dr. Sarah Kim confirming my full mental capacity. Would you like to see it? Trevor's face had gone white. You saw a doctor? When? On my morning walks, I said. I've been doing a lot on my morning walks. Michelle interviewed them separately after that, then told them she'd be recommending the case for prosecution. Trevor tried to argue, to explain, to justify. Vanessa cried. Actual tears, which I'd never seen from her before. But Michelle was unmoved. Mr. Brennan, you've financially exploited your mother. That's a felony in Michigan. The prosecutor's office will be in touch. After she left, all hell broke loose. How could you do this to us? Trevor shouted. After we took you in, after we gave you a place to live. You took me in? I stood up, and 72 years of being nice, being accommodating, being grateful flew right out the window. You took me in? Trevor James Brennan, this is my house. I didn't sign it over to you so you could steal it. I trusted you. You're being ridiculous, Vanessa spat. You're lucky we didn't throw you out on the street. Get out, I said. What? Get out of my house. Trevor laughed, but it was hollow. It's not your house anymore, Mom. Remember? You signed it over to me. I have the deed. And I have a lawyer, I said. Mr. Patrick Henley of Henley and Associates. He's filed a motion to void that transfer based on fraud and misrepresentation. You lied to me about Medicaid. You manipulated me when I was grieving, and it's all documented. For the first time, Trevor looked uncertain. You can't afford a lawyer. He's pro bono. Know what that means? It means he's doing it for free because what you did to me is disgusting enough that he wants to help. I grabbed my purse, the one that held my phone with all the recordings, my journal with all the notes, and the folder Mr. Henley had given me with copies of everything. I'm leaving. I'm going to stay with Lorraine. And Trevor? You're going to hear from the court, from Adult Protective Services, and from the prosecutor, because what you did to me isn't just morally wrong, it's illegal. I walked toward the door, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst right out of my chest. This was it. After 2.5 years of being small, being quiet, being invisible, I was walking out. Mom, wait, Trevor said, and for a second he sounded like the little boy who used to cry when I left him at kindergarten. Don't do this. We can work it out. I turned back. He looked scared. Good. You told me if it weren't for my pension, you wouldn't need me here. Well, Trevor, I don't need to be where I'm not wanted. And I sure as hell don't need to finance your life while sleeping next to a washing machine. Where will you go? That's not your concern anymore. Vanessa found her voice again. You'll regret this. When you're alone in some nursing home with no one to visit you, you'll regret burning this bridge. Maybe, I said. But I'll regret it a lot less than I'd regret staying here and letting you steal the rest of my life. I walked out the door of the house Herbert and I had bought 47 years ago, the house where I'd raised my son, where I'd celebrated birthdays and Christmases and anniversaries, and I didn't look back. Lorraine picked me up at the corner. She'd been waiting, just like we'd planned. How do you feel? She asked as I buckled my seat bag. Terrified, I admitted, and free. The next 3 months were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, interviews, and paperwork. The criminal case moved faster than I expected. The prosecutor, a sharp young woman named Amanda Chen, said mine wasn't the first case she'd seen like this. Elder financial abuse is more common than people think, she told me, and it's usually family members, adult children who see their aging parents as ATM machines. Trevor was charged with financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult and fraudulent transfer of property. Vanessa wasn't charged. She hadn't been the one on the paperwork, but Trevor's lawyer tried to claim she'd been the mastermind. Figures, Lorraine snorted when we heard. Can't even take responsibility for his own crimes. The civil case to restore the house to my name took longer. Trevor fought it, of course. He claimed I'd been mentally sound when I signed, that it had been my idea, that he'd been doing me a favor. But Mr. Henley had done his homework. He brought in Dr. Kim to testify. He played the recordings in court, Trevor's voice saying, "If it weren't for your pension, we wouldn't need you here," echoed through the courtroom, and I watched the judge's expression harden. He showed the photos of the laundry room, the journal entries, the bank statements proving I'd received less than 15% of my own income. Trevor's lawyer argued. He argued hard. But the evidence was overwhelming. On December 3rd, Judge Martha Reynolds ruled in my favor. The property transfer was voided due to fraud and undue influence. The house was mine again. Trevor was ordered to pay back $66,000, all the pension money he'd taken beyond what would have been reasonable rent. Mrs. Brennan, Judge Reynolds said, looking at me over her glasses, I want you to know that what happened to you should never have happened. No person should be treated as you were, especially not by their own child. I hope you find peace in your home once again. The criminal case concluded on January 8th. Trevor pleaded guilty to a reduced charge, 1 count of financial exploitation. He got 3 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and was ordered to pay restitution. If he violated probation, he'd serve 18 months in county jail. Vanessa filed for divorce 3 weeks later. Turned out she didn't want to be married to a convicted felon. She moved back to Ohio with the kids. That was 8 months ago. Now here I sit in my house, with my name on the deed and my pension checks going into my account, and I'm trying to make sense of it all. The house feels emptier without Lily and Owen. I miss them terribly. Trevor has supervised visitation, and sometimes he brings them to see me. It's awkward. He can barely look me in the eye. But I make sure to spoil those babies rotten when they're here. Lily asked me once, "Grandma, why don't you and Daddy talk? How do you explain to an 8-year-old that her father tried to steal from you? That he saw you as a paycheck instead of a person?" Sometimes adults have disagreements, sweetie, I told her. But Grandma loves you and your brother more than anything in the world, and I always will. Lorraine still lives alone, though I go over for dinner twice a week. We've expanded the Golden Girls group chat to include 2 new members, women we met through the senior center, both with their own stories of family betrayal and eventual survival. Ruth, my sister, calls every Sunday now. When I told her what happened, she cried. "I should have known something was wrong," she said. "I should have asked more questions." "I hid it well," I told her. "I was ashamed." That shame took a long time to shake. I kept thinking, what did I do wrong? How did I raise a son who could treat me like that? Was I too soft? Too giving? Too trusting? But my therapist— yes, I see a therapist now, and at 73 I'm not embarrassed to admit it— says it's not about what I did. It's about choices Trevor made. Choices driven by financial pressure, yes, but also by entitlement and selfishness. You gave him love, Dr. Patricia says. He chose to take money. Those are two very different things. The money Trevor was ordered to pay back comes in small amounts, $200 a month. At that rate, it'll take him 27 years to repay it all. I'll be 100 years old. We both know I'll never see most of it. But that's okay. The money was never really the point. The point was standing up. The point was saying no more. The point was proving, to Trevor, to Vanessa, to myself, that being 73 years old doesn't mean you're powerless. It doesn't mean you're obsolete. It doesn't mean your value can be reduced to a pension check amount. I've started volunteering at the senior center now, leading a support group for people experiencing elder abuse. It's shocking how many there are. Sweet Mrs. Johnson, whose daughter took out credit cards in her name. Mr. Patterson, whose son moved in and wouldn't leave. Gloria Santos, whose entire retirement account was emptied by a grandson she'd helped raise. We share our stories, we cry together, we strategize together, and slowly, one by one, we find our courage. Some people think I was too hard on Trevor. My neighbor Ellen told me, "Blood is thicker than water, Dorothy. Family should forgive family." But there's a longer version of that saying. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. The relationships we choose, the promises we make, matter more than the ones we're born into. Trevor violated his covenant with me. He promised to care for me and instead exploited me. Forgiveness doesn't mean accepting that. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. Maybe someday I'll forgive him. Maybe someday we'll rebuild something from the rubble. But it'll be on my terms, not his. It'll be when I'm ready, not when he's convenient. And it'll be because he's earned it, not because DNA demands it. For now, I wake up every morning in my own bedroom, the one Herbert and I shared for 40 years. I make coffee in my old coffee maker, which I retrieved from the garage. I tend the garden where Herbert had his heart attack, and I talk to him while I pull weeds. We did good with the petunias this year, I tell him, and I finally stood up for myself. Took me a while, but I got there. Sometimes I imagine what he'd say, probably something like, "About damn time, Dot. I didn't marry a doormat." He was right, he didn't. I'm Dorothy Brennan. I'm 73 years old. I taught elementary school for 30 years. I raised a son who disappointed me. I survived financial exploitation by my own child. I fought back, and I won. And every morning when I wake up in my own bed, in my own house, with my pension going into my own account, I remind myself, it's never too late to reclaim your life. Never too late to demand respect. Never too late to prove that you matter. Because I do matter, even at 73, even with my arthritis and my reading glasses and my gray hair. I matter. And so do you, whoever you are reading this. Whether you're 73 or 43 or 93, whether you're being exploited by family or friends or strangers. You matter. Your voice matters. Your dignity matters. Don't wait as long as I did to use it. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed. If I'd kept quiet, kept accepting the scraps Trevor threw my way, kept pretending that sleeping in a laundry room was fine as long as family was together. I'd probably still be there, invisible and shrinking. Waiting for the day when my pension wasn't enough, when they decided I'd outlived my usefulness. Maybe they'd have pushed me toward a nursing home eventually. Maybe I'd have died there in that laundry room next to the washing machine, with my son counting down the days until my Social Security transferred to him. But I didn't stay. I found my voice, even when it shook. I found my courage, even when I was terrified. I found allies who reminded me that I deserved better. The thing about being 73 is that you don't have time to waste on people who don't value you. At this age, every day is a gift. Every morning you wake up is a blessing. And I'll be damned if I was going to spend whatever time I have left making myself small for the convenience of someone who was supposed to love me. Trevor sends cards sometimes, birthday cards, Christmas cards. They say things like thinking of you and hope you're well. Never I'm sorry, never I was wrong, never I see now what I did to you. I don't respond to the cards. Maybe that makes me petty, maybe it makes me unforgiving, or maybe it just makes me human. Lily and Owen, though, they're different. They're innocent in all this. So when they visit, I bake cookies and we do crafts, and I tell them stories about their grandpa Herbert. I take them to the park where I used to take Trevor when he was small. I love them fiercely and completely, the way I once loved their father, the way I still love him, if I'm being honest. Because that's the terrible thing about children. You don't stop loving them just because they hurt you. You don't stop hoping they'll wake up one day and be the person you raised them to be. But hope doesn't mean staying in harm's way. Love doesn't mean accepting abuse. And family doesn't mean sacrificing yourself on the altar of someone else's comfort. Those are the lessons I teach now, at the support group. Those are the truths I wish someone had taught me before I signed over my house and my power of attorney and my dignity. Last week something happened that I want to tell you about. I was at the grocery store, shopping with my own money, using my own debit card, buying whatever I wanted because I'm 73 years old and I've earned the right to splurge on the good ice cream, when I ran into Vanessa. She looked different, thinner, tired. She was alone, no kids with her, and she was studying the prices on chicken breasts like she was doing advanced calculus. We saw each other at the same time. For a moment I considered turning around, walking away, pretending I hadn't seen her. But something made me stay. "Hello, Vanessa," I said. She looked startled, then defensive. "Dorothy." "How are you?" "Fine." But she didn't look fine. She looked like someone barely holding it together. "The kids? With my mother. I'm working 2 jobs now. It's hard to have them during the week." I could have been petty. I could have said something cutting about how karma has a way of catching up. I could have walked away feeling righteous and justified. Instead, I surprised us both. "If you ever need help with the kids," I said, "I'd be happy to have them stay with me. I'm their grandmother. Whatever happened between me and Trevor, they're still my grandchildren." Her eyes filled with tears. After everything, they're still innocent," I said. "And they deserve stability. Let me know." I walked away before she could respond. I didn't do it to be noble or to prove a point. I did it because Lily and Owen deserve to know their grandmother, and because sometimes being the bigger person isn't about forgiveness. It's about breaking cycles. Will Vanessa take me up on the offer? I don't know, but I made it. And that's what matters. So here I am, 8 months after walking out of my own house with nothing but my purse and my dignity. Here I am, having fought and won and reclaimed what was mine. Here I am, still standing. The house is quiet tonight. Too quiet, maybe. But it's my quiet. My house. My choice. Tomorrow I'm meeting the Golden Girls for coffee. Thursday, I have my support group at the senior center. Friday, Lily and Owen are coming for the weekend, Trevor's visitation time, and we're going to make Halloween decorations because October is almost here. I'm thinking about getting a cat, or maybe a dog, something warm and living to fill up some of these empty rooms, something that will love me without calculating my financial worth. I'm thinking about taking a trip next spring, maybe to see Ruth in Arizona, maybe to Florida to visit Herbert's sister. I haven't had a real vacation in 5 years. I'm thinking about a lot of things these days, but mostly I'm thinking about how close I came to losing myself completely, how close I came to believing that my value began and ended with a pension check, how close I came to dying invisible and forgotten in a laundry room. And I'm thinking about all the other Dorothy Brennans out there, the ones still sleeping in laundry rooms, literal or metaphorical, the ones still accepting crumbs from tables they built, the ones still believing they should be grateful for scraps of the dignity they're owed. If you're one of them, hear me, you deserve better. You deserve respect. You deserve to be valued for who you are, not what you can provide. And it's never ever too late to demand that. It won't be easy. It wasn't easy for me. There were days I wanted to give up, days I thought I'd made a terrible mistake, days I wondered if being alone was worse than being exploited. But I'm not alone. I have friends who love me. I have grandchildren who need me. I have a house that's truly mine again. I have a pension that supports me, not someone else. I have my dignity. And that's worth fighting for. Would you have forgiven them? Or would you have stood your ground like I did? Sometimes I wonder if younger people understand what it's like to be treated as invisible in your own family, to watch your worth be calculated in dollar signs rather than decades of love and sacrifice. Maybe you think I was too harsh. Maybe you think family should always come first, that blood should trump everything else. Or maybe you understand that sometimes the hardest thing, and the right thing, is to save yourself, even from the people you love most. I don't have all the answers. I'm just a 73-year-old woman who refused to disappear quietly, who decided that being called ungrateful was better than being actually invisible, who learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone else's cruelty. Whatever you think, whatever you do in my place, I hope you never have to make this choice. I hope your children value you. I hope your family honors you. I hope you never have to fight for basic dignity in your own home. But if you do, fight. Document. Speak up. Reach out. Find your Lorraines and your Mr. Henleys and your Golden Girls, because you matter, at 73, at 43, at 93, with or without money, with or without family approval, with or without anyone telling you so. You matter. And don't you ever forget it.